Welcome to my channel, where the scariest stories come to life. Before we dive into today's chilling tale, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications, so you never miss a story. Now, let's get into the horror. When I was 18, I spent quite a lot of time in the Cohutta Wilderness. My favorite spot was a set of waterfalls, several miles from the nearest parking area. Most visitors just parked in the RV area and swam in the creek right along the gravel road. In the 2 years I had hiked all those trails, I had never seen anyone farther than a half-mile in any way. One Saturday, I took my girlfriend to see these beautiful waterfalls since she had never had the opportunity to see one in person before. We set off along the trail when, not 15 minutes into our walk, she grabbed my arm and got real quiet. She told me she felt like she was being watched and had those heebie-jeebies. I assured her that everything was safe. The only thing I'd ever had to worry about in this part of the woods were the occasional bear or maybe a copperhead. We continued on, but instead of the feeling of being watched going away, it just kept getting worse for her. I figured at first she just wasn't used to the wilderness yet and was having a bit of trouble adjusting. A couple of hours later, we finally reached the end of the trail and had a picnic at the bottom of the falls. After we finished eating, she tried to check her cell phone for messages, only to panic when she realized we had no service. I calmly explained to her that there was no cell reception anywhere around for miles. We were finally alone and could just enjoy some peace and solitude. This, of course, made her panic even worse. We decided to start heading back almost immediately. She was clearly scared, and I couldn't help but smile, thinking it was very silly. On the way back, I explained to her how many times I'd been out there all alone and never had any problems. Still, she just couldn't shake that feeling of being watched. We were about a mile from the falls now, on the only trail around, when suddenly we heard someone call out to us from behind. I nearly jumped out of my skin and turned to see a man walking toward us. He had a rifle slung over his shoulder and a heavy beard, with his hat tipped low over his face. My girlfriend took a small step behind me. "Hello, sir. What can I do for you?" I asked, trying to sound friendly. "Oh, you guys left your cell phone back by the falls," he said, a slight grin on his bearded face as he looked at my girlfriend. "Oh, thanks for the assist, buddy," I said, extending my hand. He shook his head. He told me he hadn't brought it with him. It was still sitting up there. Maybe we should follow him instead and come get it ourselves. We politely declined, of course, and made our way back down the trail as quickly as possible, him following us the entire way and trying to stay out of sight. I noticed that he'd followed us all the way back to our car. She showed me her cell phone was still in her pocket when I opened her door. Ever since then, I haven't gone back on that particular trail again. This happened when I was a 17-year-old high school student. Every day, I'd walk the 25 to 30-minute journey to and from school. There was a shortcut I could take home that would save time, and as a nature lover, I found it very enjoyable. Whenever I'd walk home, I would take this shortcut to enjoy the small forest in the medium-sized, moderately busy city I live in. It was a fairly well-traveled path, and I would occasionally see other people walking from their neighborhoods toward the busy streets or other students heading home from school or college. Sometimes, though, I'd find myself completely alone on the path. To give you an idea, the path wasn't well maintained but was distinct enough from years of use. It started off from the busy road near my high school, then went into a low-lying open wooded area with some small ponds scattered around. After a few minutes, the path veered right up a big hill toward the parallel street to my own. One day, I was walking home after staying late at school for extra help. A few minutes into the shortcut, I noticed a man standing a bit off the main path, seemingly talking on a cell phone. There was an open backpack sitting on the ground near his feet. This wasn't unusual, as the area was well traveled with several offshoot paths. Sometimes, people would stop there to wait for the bus or to avoid the traffic fumes on the main road. What caught my attention was that I'd seen him a few times that week, even though I'd never noticed him before. I shrugged it off, thinking he might be a new college student or someone who had just moved to the area. That day, though, something felt different. The shortcut seemed eerily quiet, and I couldn't shake the bad feeling in my stomach. Still, I blamed it on paranoia and kept walking, keeping an eye on the man as I passed. He continued talking on his phone and didn't seem suspicious. I told myself it was nothing and moved on. About 30 meters away, I suddenly heard silence behind me. The man had stopped talking. A wave of dread hit me, and I turned around. He was crouched down, his phone gone, fiddling with a cloth and a brown glass bottle. Before I could process what was happening, his head snapped up, and he locked eyes with me. His expression was a terrifying mix of "I've been caught" and "I can't stop now." He dropped everything, grabbed the cloth, and sprinted toward me. My mind raced. I was too far from the busy road for anyone to hear me scream, and too far into the shortcut to make it back. My first instinct was to run toward my neighborhood. I threw off my heavy backpack and sprinted up the hill as fast as I could. I was a top cross-country and track runner in school, and running had saved me in the past. But this time, it wasn't enough. He was fast and gaining on me. I didn't need to look back to know he was closing in. Up ahead, I saw fenced-in yards and prayed someone was home. I screamed as loudly as I could, but my voice was weak from exhaustion. I decided to start jumping fences into people's yards, hoping to slow him down. The first fence seemed to throw him off, but by the second yard, he was right behind me. I felt him almost grab my leg as I climbed into the next yard. My lungs burned, and I was on the verge of collapsing. Then I saw a familiar sight, a yard belonging to neighbors I knew well, and their dog, Leo. Leo was out in the backyard, and when he saw me running frantically, he started wagging his tail. Then he spotted the man chasing me and went wild, barking and growling. I thought the dog's aggression would scare the man off, but instead, he tried to jump the fence after me. Leo wasn't having it. He launched at the man, sinking his teeth into his face. The man fell back into the previous yard, clutching his side. I collapsed into the grass, too shocked to move. The dog kept barking and lunging at the fence, while the man and I stared at each other for a moment. He looked furious, but didn't try to come back. After a few seconds, he got up and ran back down the hill. Leo came over, licking my face and wagging his tail as if nothing had happened. I snapped out of it, ran to the back door, and pounded on it, but no one was home. My house was close by, so I jumped the fence and sprinted the rest of the way home to call the police. The cops came and searched the area. They found my backpack in a muddy puddle, but no trace of the man or his belongings. I gave them the best description I could, but nothing ever came of it. Over the following months, there were reports of stalking and missing persons in the area, but nothing quite matched my experience. I still wonder what he was trying to do, and why he wasn't better prepared if his plan was to attack or kidnap me. Whatever his intentions, I stopped using that shortcut unless I was with friends and carried pepper spray. Thanks for sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to give the video a like and leave a comment with your thoughts. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a terrifying tale. See you in the next one.